Trump cleans up the FBI by hiring Kash Patel. Now, many have been waiting for something to happen when it comes to the FBI. Many people know that there is corruption in the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Now, Trump has spoke on cleaning it up. So let's just go to Kash Patel and see what's coming in the upcoming weeks.
It's an announcement that took many by surprise. FBI Director Christopher Wray telling employees he'll step down when President-elect Donald Trump takes office.
This is the best way to avoid dragging the Bureau deeper into the fray.
And he shared some final orders.
What absolutely, positively must not change is our commitment to doing the right thing in the right way every time.
But change is coming.
Meetings went wonderful.
Kash Patel, picked by Trump to lead the FBI even before Wray announced plans to cut his 10-year term short, meeting with lawmakers and making his case for confirmation. The 44-year-old Patel is a former public defender and federal prosecutor who served as a national security advisor and at the Pentagon during Trump's first term.
I think what really makes him attractive to Trump is, again, that he saw what he thought and that President Trump thought were abuses of the Justice Department, the FBI in particular, of going out, perhaps investigating where they shouldn't have.
Something Patel has been willing to say out loud.
I am honored to be here in support of Donald J. Trump. He is being victimized, but we as a country are being victimized even more by the unconstitutional weaponization of justice.
Patel's riled opponents by saying he would shut down the Bureau's headquarters in Washington, reduce the FBI's surveillance powers, and cut the size of the Bureau's intelligence operations. He's also called for annihilating the deep state, and in his 2023 book, Government Gangsters, listed 60 officials who have disagreed with Trump.
Some of the changes that he might want to make, he can do it with tone or with some changes in personnel, but if he really does want to make these significant changes, that's going to take more work for the executive and the legislative branch, something that takes a little longer that he can't do all by himself.
Kash.
And I know what many of y'all are going to say. Shank, the only reason why Trump is hiring Kash Patel is because Kash Patel is also corrupted just like Trump. But let's look at it for what it is. The FBI has been corrupted for many years. So whether Trump brings in Kash Patel or not, you still cannot get around the fact that the FBI has been filled with corruption. You can't sit up here and just say, well, the only reason why he bringing them in is because he's gonna be on board with him for him and his corruption. We don't want to look at it like that. We want to look at it like, okay, there is some corruption that's going on in the FBI. And we know that the corruption in the FBI been going on for a long time. It's been corruption in the FBI way back during the days of Malcolm X, the Black Panthers, and so forth and so forth. Right? So now we got Trump. Trump is meaning business. He want to get down to business and he want to clean up that FBI. Salute, Miss Parker. Miss Parker says facts. He all about cleaning up some
Charlie and
things.
Dr. Mark Siegel, and this is the Big Weekend Show. We begin tonight with a Fox News alert. President-elect Donald Trump has just nominated Kash Patel for director of the FBI. Trump made the announcement on Truth Social just moments ago. During Trump's first term, Patel served as the chief of staff at the Department of Defense. So, Charlie, not too long ago, Donald Trump said that Kash's new book, talking about how he's going to completely eradicate the deep state and also firings at the top ranks of the FBI would sort of be the blueprint for what he would want to do in his new administration. I mean, the deep state needs cleaning. The Department of Justice and the FBI also need some firings and some reform as well. So what do you think he'd be able to accomplish as FBI director?
Yeah, well,
I mean, everything needs to be cleaned up in this country. Everything needs to be cleaned up in this country. The deep state, the FBI, the DOJ, the banking system, the healthcare industry. It all needs to be cleaned up. Ms. Parker says, why isn't nobody talking about the Biden administration? And that's facts, Ms. Parker. They're not going to talk about the corruption that's going on with the Biden administration. They want to talk about the corruption that's going on with Trump. Well, the last time I checked, they all belong to the same bird. They all belong to the same bird. But why are we ignoring the corruption from one side? And that side is the Democrat side. Why is we ignoring the corruption in the Biden administration? Why are we only focused on the corruption on the Trump's side of things?
Well, obviously, Kash Patel has a unique observation and history with the FBI. He has been on all sides of the FBI. He, working for Devin Nunes in Congress, of course, had oversight of the FBI and made life difficult for them. But that was, of course, before he realized just how corrupt the FBI is. He's also been a target of the FBI. And the reason he was a target of the FBI is because he pressured the release of information exposing that the FBI had illegally spied on President Trump's campaign and during his presidency.
So he's going in already knowing the corruption of the FBI. And I know what y'all gonna say. See, Shank, it's all about Trump. The only reason why Trump put him in place is for him to get rid of those FBIs that went after Trump. I mean, didn't they go after Trump falsely? What did the FBI get out of going after Donald Trump? I'll wait, y'all. I'll wait. What did the FBI gain by going after Donald Trump? I will wait.
And the idea that this was, only in Washington would this be shocking. He has experience. He knows where the bodies are buried, and you will not be able to fool him out of actually doing some of the cleaning that needs to be done.
He knows where some of the bodies are buried. He's experienced. He knows. He know exactly where to start at. Ain't that right, Miss Parker? He knows who to start with. See, y'all see how this thing works when it plays out? Do y'all see how things work when it plays out? He know where the bodies are buried at. He know who's doing what. He knows. I think this is a good choice that Donald Trump is making.
In the book is Government of Gangsters. So let's look at some of what Kash has done. He has served as the U.S. National Security Council official, senior advisor to the acting director of national intelligence, also as the chief of staff to the acting United States Secretary of Defense, all during the Trump administration. So, Julie, this is someone that Donald Trump trusts, right? Yeah. And we saw him face the deep state during his first administration. We all remember the Russia hoax. We also remember the 51 former intelligence officers who lied to us. telling us that Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation. So it's important, particularly at the role of the FBI director, for him to have someone that he trusts.
Yeah, and there was a history of a lot of deep state, if you want to talk about the deep state politics here, but in the FBI in itself, just trusting the FBI. I mean, we have not trusted him in past administrations, the FBI in general. The directors and former directors and also members of the FBI have been leaking information to the press in order to advance their political purposes. And the FBI should not be a place of politics. I mean, the FBI has a role, and the FBI has really lost a lot of credibility. I mean, the FBI does not have credibility. So I think obviously there's going to be backlash. Everyone's going to criticize on the left that Donald Trump has yet once again picked another, conservative who happens to also be a friend, who happens to be an ally. But that's kind of what you need in this White House, because if you don't pick people that you trust, then that's when the leaks happen, and that's when the backstabbing happens. And for once, he's got people surrounded by him. And I know that Trump is very much a loyalist, and he believes in the people that are loyal to him. And so you know that you're not going to be getting that with Kash Patel and with a lot of other nominees that he's chosen to elect.
Yeah,
and that's why I say be careful who y'all pick on. Be careful who y'all go after. Be careful who y'all bully. Because when those tables turn, now the FBI tried to bully Trump. The FBI has been picking on Trump for all those years. And now look what then happened. The tables has turned.
someone who's also faced 2 assassination attempts as well, right? So he really needs people who
To
can
trust his inner circle.
I think that the key points that have been made, he's cleansing. He's cleansing the FBI here. He's cleansing Department of Justice. He wants loyalists. You talk about loyalists. Kash Patel, of course, to add one point here, was the one who said those documents were declassified, period. And he stood up for Trump. He took the Fifth Amendment. That is something Trump remembers. With all the attacks that Trump considers to be politically motivated, Patel stood up for him. Has a great background. Got his JD over in the UK. Is a very, very smart operator. Has been in the Department of Defense, as was said. Department of Justice. He's highly skilled.
Well, and I like, especially as someone who distrusts government to a great degree, I like the fact that Trump's surrounding himself with people who also don't like the government very much as well, and who've also been targets of the government as well. All right, so let's now head down to West Palm Beach, Florida, where Mark Meredith has been following this story very closely. Mark.
Good evening. You're right. I sure have. I'm glad I didn't make dinner reservations for tonight because these nominees are coming out at a pretty much rapid pace. We've also learned that there's going to be a new nominee to head up the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency. But I have to go back to the main story at this hour is that President-elect Trump plans, once he makes it to Washington, to nominate a new FBI director who would then, if confirmed by the Senate, take over from Christopher Wray, who filled the job after James Comey was fired back in 2017 as well. Now, Trump has been talking about trying to shake up the FBI for years, and obviously Kash Patel, if confirmed, would be able to do that. He has spoken out quite a bit about what he says is a deep state unelected cabal of tyrants who he thinks are trying to sabotage those that have been elected, including President-elect Trump. There have been rumblings that Patel could end up at CIA. The FBI post was also being out there as something talked about, but we didn't expect this announcement tonight. Now, one of the big questions going forward is what kind of reception he will get up on Capitol Hill. We saw what happened after the Attorney General nominee, Matt Gaetz, was announced. Trump said he was going to stick with him, that he felt like he was very confident in him. But then after a few days up on the Hill, gauging the reaction from lawmakers, they realized that they weren't going to be able to get their nominee through. I don't know what kind of reception Kash Patel is likely to get from the Senate. Obviously, the Republicans are counting on that Senate majority that they're going to have come January. That's going to give them a little bit more leverage, obviously, than they would have right now, with the Democrats still having that very small percentage where they can flip the chamber. So let's talk about what we're going to see next. One, we're going to have to ask about what about Christopher Wray's response to all of this right now. Obviously, he is not going to be Trump's pick going forward. My understanding is that he had said he had not planned to go anywhere after he had already been confirmed, like I said, in 2017. So he's going to simply be out of a job, but whether or not it's going to be Patel or somebody else going forward is still yet to be seen. If it's okay with you, I'd like to read what Trump had to say about his nominee. He said he wants him to serve because he's a brilliant lawyer, an investigator, and an America First fighter who has spent his career exposing corruption, defending justice, and protecting the American people. Now, what we will also be looking to see is how, if confirmed, Patel would want to shake up the FBI. Obviously, there's been so much focus on the FBI's role back in 2016 as it began investigating Russiagate. And we have seen, of course, those hearings that have happened for years where people were trying to find out who was trying to control some of the behind-the-scenes action as they were investigating Trump. Trump making it very clear he's not happy with the FBI, and this certainly would be a shakeup. Guys, back to you.
It sure is, Mark. Thank you. A little breaking news to keep things exciting around here. Charlie, how do you think Kash Patel being picked as FBI director, how do you think this will be received on Capitol Hill? What does this fight look like for Trump to get some of these guys through?
Oh, there will definitely be a pretty good freak out on Capitol Hill among Democrats.
You think?
I don't think that there will be as much resistance among, the problem for Matt Gaetz was that he started finding resistance among Republicans, and it had less to do with his history of work and more to do with other things. Kash Patel doesn't have to worry about that. There will be a massive freak out over the fact of what he stands for and what he promises to do. What I love about this is, there are lots of flaws with Matt Gaetz, but one of the great things about picking Matt Gaetz is that we were going to have confirmation hearings that we're going to put the Department of Justice on trial. And we were going to have a good 2 weeks of forcing the press to talk about how corrupt the Department of Justice has become and how much the Biden administration and the Obama administration, quite frankly, politicized the Department of Justice to go after their political enemies. The great thing about Kash Patel is, and we lost that when Matt Gaetz walked away, but we're going to get it now. When Kash Patel goes before the United States Senate, the entire thing is going to be a trial of the Department of Justice and every single thing that they have done to become more politicized and to become weapons against anyone that the Biden administration or the Obama administration deems as a threat. And that is a magnificent thing.
Yeah.
I am so happy. I am so happy that something is going to be done about the corruption in the DOJ and the FBI. I am so happy, y'all.
Dr. Siegel, I feel this was a mandate for Donald Trump, right? The House and the Senate, they rode his coattails to victory. So I think he should have the people around him that he wants and that he trusts.
And that have great talent. And the other thing about Kash Patel is he's a writer, and he messages, and he helped Trump run Truth Social, and that children's book he wrote, The Plot Against the King, which made fun of the whole idea that Trump was targeted in the 2016 election, took his side with a children's book. He does it all across the way, and I think that Trump is picking him, A, because of his talent, and B, because of his loyalty.
Julie, big picture, looking at some of these nominees and these cabinet picks, what does that tell you about what kind of administration we're going to see from this next chapter?
I think that we're going to have more honesty and transparency, because there was one thing that the former President Trump did, and that was be transparent. And this administration has been not. There has been such a lack of transparency in that. And I want to talk about Kash Patel as the man, not just the professional. He's super distinguished. He is so smart. He's so qualified for this job. So nobody out there on the left can say he's not. But he's also a good person.
Stop right there. Salute 80s, baby. Salute 80s, baby. Stop right there. He's qualified for the job. He's qualified for the job. Kash Patel is qualified for the job as the director of the FBI. Did y'all hear that? He's qualified.
He's an honest man. He wrote that children's book. He's hysterical. I love him. His personality is amazing. He's a real person. But he also, like a children's book, he is actually a co-author. The two of us wrote for the same children's book publisher, Brave Books. And so I do know him quite well, and I think he's an amazing character, and I think he's going to be a huge asset. And I think it's so important to know that he's taking good character people and putting them into the White House that we can trust, that we know that they're not going to tell us bold-faced lies every single day. These are honest, hardworking people, and I don't think you can really argue against that.
Well, and Charlie, Americans overwhelmingly wanted change, right? They didn't like the direction this country was heading in, and they wanted change, and that's what they're getting.
Yeah, there were obviously key issues that that went into this past election. Immigration was one of them. The economy was another. But First and foremost, and the entire, we have talked about having like a third party or a nonpartisan candidate for, I don't know, for as long as I've been covering politics. Donald Trump is the first person to come along who is a nonpartisan candidate, who is a third party candidate, and he has crashed both parties. And the reason is exactly what you just said right there. People are ready for change. They want a scalding change to occur in Washington. And obviously, Donald Trump himself would say that there were mistakes he made, chiefly about some of the people that he hired in the first term. He's not going to make that mistake this time. And I think that, he views his reelection as being a starting point, not a victory, but a starting point for making transformational change.
People are ready for a change. The American people are ready for a change. Not only is the American people ready for a change, the whole world is ready for a change. And who's going to bring that change about? None other than Donald Trump. Salute positive vibes. Salute positive vibes. Appreciate you for pulling up. It's time, y'all. It's time. It's time for a change. The FBI will be getting a new look. The FBI will be getting a facelift. The FBI will change.
I am honored to be here in support of Donald J. Trump. He is being victimized, but we as a country are being victimized even more by the unconstitutional weaponization of justice and the two-tier system of justice that is on full display.
The man you see on your screen is Trump loyalist Kash Patel. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has announced plans to make Kash Patel the next director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, or the FBI. In his social media platform, Truth Social, Trump wrote, and I quote, "Kash is a brilliant lawyer, investigator, and America First fighter who has spent his career exposing corruption, defending justice, and protecting the American people." Trump's announcement has set the stage for a fresh round of turbulence at the law enforcement agency. So who is Kash Patel? Kashyap Pramod Patel, or Kash Patel, was born in New York City to Indian immigrant parents from Gujarat. He studied criminal justice at Richmond University and later graduated from Pace University School of Law. Patel also holds a certificate in international law from the University College London. He started his career as a public defender in Florida and later became a federal prosecutor in the National Security Division of the Department of Justice. There he oversaw the prosecution of terrorists linked to Al-Qaeda and ISIS. Patel also worked closely with the Joint Special Operations Command to take down high-value terrorism targets. During Trump's first term, Patel held several high-level positions, including Chief of Staff to the U.S. Secretary of Defense.
So as we could see, he's definitely qualified. Many of you might say, well, the only reason why he picked him was because he's going to be loyal to him. Nah, I believe that he picked him was because he's qualified. We just heard his resume. Wouldn't you all say that he's qualified? I think that he was picked by Donald Trump because he's qualified.
Kash Patel's nomination as FBI director means Christopher Wray, the current director who was appointed by Trump in 2017, would have to leave his position 3 years early. Wray's 10-year term is not set to end until 2027. So for Patel to take over, Wray would either need to step down voluntarily or be removed by Trump. Listen to what Wray had said after he was nominated for the FBI director's post in 2017 by the then President Donald Trump.
I am given the honor of leading this agency. I will never allow the FBI's work to be driven by anything other than the facts, the law, and the impartial pursuit of justice, period. Full stop. My loyalty is to the Constitution and to the rule of law.
What went wrong? between Trump and the FBI Director Christopher Wray? The answer lies in the FBI's investigations. Under Wray's leadership, the FBI investigated Trump himself, including a search of his Mar-a-Lago estate in 2022 for secret documents he wasn't supposed to have. Trump was not happy with the FBI's investigations, especially the one into the January 6, 2021 U.S. Capitol riot, which involved hundreds of his supporters.
I was appalled, like you, at the violence and destruction that we saw that day. I was appalled that you, our country's elected leaders, were victimized right here in these very halls. That attack, that siege, was criminal behavior, plain and simple. It's behavior that we, the FBI, view as domestic terrorism.
FBI directors serve 10-year terms to keep them independent from politics. This way, they can do their job without worrying about pleasing the president or other politicians. Usually, presidents keep the existing FBI director when they take office. For example, President Joe Biden kept Christopher Wray as the FBI director.
Appreciate that cash donation, 80s, baby. Appreciate that cash donation, 80s, baby.
However, presidents can choose to appoint someone new. In fact, only 2 FBI directors have been fired before completing their terms. William Sessions was fired by Bill Clinton in 1993, and James Comey was fired by Trump in 2017. Trump fired Comey in 2017, and Christopher Wray took over as the FBI director then. But what led to Comey's firing? Well, Trump was unhappy with the FBI's investigations into his connections to Russia. This probe was a major point of contention between Trump and Comey. However, Patel's appointment as FBI chief would not be a cakewalk. First, he has to be confirmed by the Senate. Just because Republicans control the Senate doesn't mean his confirmation is a done deal. Patel will likely face some tough questions during his confirmation hearings, especially since he has talked about getting rid of government officials whom he thinks are against Trump. Patel even said he would shut down the FBI's Pennsylvania Avenue headquarters and send employees across the country to chase down criminals. Trump might want someone loyal who will go after his enemies, but that's likely to worry senators who think the FBI and Justice Department should be independent and not be used for a president's personal vendettas. Kash Patel thinks there is a secret group of government officials who don't like Trump and are trying to hurt his presidency. This conspiracy theory is dubbed as the deep state theory and is popular among some Republicans. Patel believes in this theory so strongly that he even wrote a book about it.
Let me get to the chat. Seth says misinformation. Seth says, why isn't Ray Epps in jail? Myrna says, why isn't that no one cares that this man caused an insurrection? I think the people do care that he caused the insurrection. I think it's bigger than the insurrection. I think that is bigger than the insurrection, Myrna. As you could see, Kash Patel has written a book called Government Gangsters, the Deep State, the Truth, and the Battle for Our Democracy.
Trump thinks Kash Patel's book, Government Gangsters, is a roadmap for his next administration.
Myrna says, don't get me wrong, I'm not a Democrat, but I could never vote for Donald Trump. I remember what him and his father did to black people in the 80s. Google it. Him and his father was sued for racism. I'm well aware of him and his father being sued for racism. However, that's something that happened in the 80s, and we are looking in a different day and different time. It's all about what Donald Trump is doing today. I've done some things in the 80s that I'm not proud of. I'm sure you've done some things in the 80s that you wasn't proud of. I'm sure we all have done some things in the 80s that we wasn't proud of. But what we done in our past is just that. It's in our past. Do we keep dwelling on what we done in our past? If that's the case, we all are guilty of doing something in our past. Seth says we are a Republican, not a democracy. In a democracy, the people vote for the laws that affect them. In a republic, we vote for the people who vote for the laws that affect us. But I want everybody to just focus on what I just said as far as what was done in the 80s. Trump may have been sued in the 80s, him and his father. But are we going to hold something over his head that was done in the 80s? If that's the case, then we all fall short. We all are guilty of something from the 80s, starting with me first. I'll be the first one to raise my hand for being guilty of something that I done in the 80s. So for me, I'm not focused on what Trump done. I'm not focused on that. I'm focused on what he's doing today. And he is cleaning up the FBI and the DOJ.
In the book, Patel criticizes the so-called deep state and calls for a major shakeup of the FBI, including firing the top ranks. Patel has even pledged to make the so-called Diddy list and the infamous Epstein files public after taking...
Did y'all hear that? Did y'all hear that? Myrna says, I can't support him. I have to stand up for my people. Black people, we suffer enough. Why would I prop up a man that caused so much hurt and harm in my community? Positive Vibes says guilty of being bald in the 80s. Positive Vibes wouldn't be Positive Vibes if she didn't sneak in a roast. Seth says he also supported Jesse Jackson in the 80s. Exactly. Now, with my man, with Kash coming in, he's saying he's going to make the baby oil man list and the Epstein files public. See, it ain't going to be no more of this corruption when Kash Patel get in office.
Taking office, the Diddy list contains names of public figures linked to rapper Sean Diddy Combs' his parties, where sexual misconduct allegedly occurred. The Epstein files, on the other hand, relate to investigations into the financier Jeffrey Epstein's human trafficking and sexual blackmail rings. And the FBI director is responsible for leading a large workforce. This includes some 37,000 employees spread across 55 field offices in the United States. The director also oversees 350 satellite offices and more than 60 international locations, covering nearly 200 countries worldwide. Trump's critics are questioning whether Patel is qualified for this job, citing his lack of experience compared to past FBI directors. Some are even worried that Patel, known for his loyalty to Trump, might try to turn the FBI into a tool for partisan revenge. Ultimately, it's up to the Senate to decide whether Patel's nomination will be confirmed. Trump has also nominated Chad Chronister, a sheriff from Florida, to lead the Drug Enforcement Administration, or the DEA. Additionally, Pam Bondi, the former Attorney General of Florida, has been selected to head the Department of Justice. Now, the Department of Justice oversees both the DEA and the FBI. So Trump's nomination suggests he wants to surround himself with supporters who will carry out his vision.
Wow. 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 But like Seth says, he also supported Jesse Jackson in the 80s. So you got to remember, he did do some things for black people. So what are we going to do? We're going to take the one thing when one case that him and his father was sued for discrimination towards blacks. Are we going to use that one case to discredit all the other things positive that he done for black people. That's not a good thing to do. I mean, like I said before, if we're going to base our relationship with people, if we're going to base it off of things that they done in their past, we all fall short. We all would fall short if we base it off of what somebody done in their past. We got to focus on what's going on today. We got to focus on what's going on now. They had their chance to get Trump. That's all I'm going to say. They had their chance to get Trump. We talking about the FBI. Now, you mean to tell me the FBI couldn't get Trump? Chief says, we'll see what he does when it happens. Give me a minute, y'all. Give me a minute. I got one more clip, and then I'm going to let y'all get out of here. And make sure everybody pull up later on at 9:30 on my main channel. That's Shank Rock. Make sure y'all pull up at 9:30 on the main channel as I discuss what will Kash Patel do to help the Shanquella Robinson case.
We went to them and said, look, you guys didn't do this. Help us expose it.
Chief says, will he lock the country down is my question. That's a good point. That's a good point. I mean, I don't see it being a bad thing if you lock the country down. You know? See, one thing about America, the people in America, we are so spoiled. We are so used to having our way. We are so used to living comfortable lifestyles. So we are so spoiled. So whenever a change comes, we get upset. All this time, we've been dealing with politicians as our presidents. Now we have a businessman for a president. The people can't take it. Wow.
And they both doubled down. You know what they did? They launched an investigation against me.
What? So Google informed you that you're being surveilled 5 years after the investigation started.
Right. Gina Haspel would later become Trump's CIA director. And then when these guys got out of the administration, do you know where Gina Haspel and Rod Rosenstein work today?
Where?
And instead of doing the job for the American people, they come up with government boondoggles that pay themselves billions and billions of dollars, or their friends billions and billions of dollars, which is our dollars. And they want to make sure that keeps going over and over and over. I'll give you a perfect example. Who cares if you've ever followed Russiagate or any of this other stuff about the deep state? Chris Wray, the director of the FBI, and Rod Rosenstein, the deputy attorney general then of the DOJ, were tasked with helping us at Congress, where I ran the Russiagate investigation, to expose Russiagate. We went to them and said, look, you guys didn't do this. Help us expose it. And they both doubled down. You know what they did? They launched an investigation against me, the senior congressional investigator for Russiagate on the House Intelligence Committee, and 6 other staffers. They used grand jury subpoenas to get my personal information, my banking information, my emails, my cell phone information, everything else. I didn't find out till 5 years later when Google called me and said, hey, our 5-year notification has lapsed. We can now tell you the DOJ surveilled you. And we had to turn over documents. So that we exploded that into a federal lawsuit that's still ongoing in the DOJ and FBI. But those two guys,
Hold on. What? So Google informed you that you're being surveilled 5 years after the investigation started.
right.
What, I mean, what more did they tell you?
They're not allowed to say anything, but that you can be informed now, since it's 5 years later. So, as a former national security prosecutor, I know you don't just go to Google. You go to every provider, you go to all the telecoms, you go to the bank, you go to everybody. If you're going to run an investigation, that's what you do. But these two guys who were running the FBI and DOJ sat in a room with the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee and lied to our faces. They threatened to investigate us, which was bad enough, right? They actually did it. And then these two guys would get exposed, for Rod Rosenstein specifically, for signing a FISA that was totally bogus. And we've caught Chris Wray lying time and time again as the director of the FBI. Put these guys over here for a second. Gina Haspel, who was the director of the CIA, was London station chief in England when Russiagate kicked off. Under the rule of law in America, if you want the Federal Bureau of Investigation to launch an investigation overseas, you have to get permission from the head intel rep. In England, it's the the station chief. So she allowed Russiagate to occur on British soil, where there was a barroom operation to try to record some nub into spilling the beans on Donald Trump. And they would use that to launch the whole Russiagate offensive. Gina Haspel would later become Trump's CIA director. And then when these guys got out of the administration, do you know where Gina Haspel and Rod Rosenstein were today?
Where?
At Christopher Wray's old law firm as senior named partners, making 7 and 8 figures.
How is this going to get broken up? It seems so deep.
Yeah.
I mean, you just mentioned they're embedded in politics, they're embedded in mainstream media, they're embedded in intelligence agencies, they are former top leadership of the military that's now embedded within the military industrial complex companies.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's how many people are involved in this?
Thousands.
In the deep state.
Thousands.
How would you even begin to dismantle it?
Well, I think the first Trump administration was the beachhead, right? People were just like, you guys are full of it. And we continued to put out the truth. And years later, people are catching up to a lot of that truth, saying, wait a second, you guys weren't lying back then. People being the American public. That's the weapon we need. And you guys weren't lying about impeachment. They literally made up a piece of a phone call to launch a presidential impeachment and then put me in the middle of it by making up a meeting that never occurred. But it sounded dirty at the time. And then when we finally released the transcript, everybody was like, oh yeah, there was no quid pro quo. Nothing illegal happened here. But the narrative had been out there. Now you have President Trump as a president who was impeached for the first time in however many years. And so they get their narratives, right? They don't necessarily care about the conclusory portion of their mission. They use the mainstream media to say Trump's a Russian asset. He's been impeached. Kash Patel is under DOJ surveillance for whatever investigation when he was never done. I've had more mainstream media hits on me than I can count. But they want the title narrative to carry the day. Hunter Biden's laptop is Russian disinformation. They don't care about the actual truth. And so once you start stacking these together and you show the American public you were lied to, you based your vote at the polls on information that the government purposely withheld from you so that you would vote a particular way.
And I'm going to stop that and I'm going to say it. We are going through this same thing with the FBI in the Shanquilla Robinson case. We are going through the same thing. The people, they don't worry about the truth. They're not concerned about the truth. It's all about the cover-up. It's all about corruption. Well, whatever happened to the truth? And the truth shall set you free. Whatever happened to that? I am glad that Trump is going after the corruption that's in the FBI as well as the DOJ, the Department of Justice. And I've been around long enough to know that there's a lot of corruption in the FBI. And there is a lot of corruption in the DOJ. And if Trump can get in there and make a difference, if Trump can get in there and clean it up, I could care less why he's doing it. I could care less. If you're cleaning something up, I could care less why you're doing it. You know, yeah, Shank, but he the only reason why Trump is going after the FBI is because the FBI they got something on Trump. I don't give a fuck why he's going after them, long as he's going to clean it up. And I think my man Kash Patel Kash Patel is a good look. Chief says thieves. Johnny says all we can say to Cash, congratulations. The past and future of the USA becoming clarify. A great job for Cash. Ms. Parker says, I stand with you on this one, Shank. I only got a little bit more of the clip, and then I'm going to let y'all get out of here.
Once you show enough Americans that, then I think you have the movement that you need behind the leadership that we have in Donald Trump, is my position, to take a wrecking ball to the deep state.
How so?
You go to DC and you remove all these positions, right? And you start enacting measures, not of retribution, but of legal consequence. Y'all acted one way. For instance, the people that signed the 51 Intel letter, right? Permanently suspend their security clearances forever. Every one of those guys lied. Every one of those guys got caught lying. You're talking about 2 former CIA directors, a former NSA director, and a former Secretary of Defense. All intentionally, to this day, continue to lie and won't take back their letter. Okay, you can stop making money from your security clearance. There's a start. Then you go in and you get the Eric Charmels of the world, who've been publicly outed as utilizing intel to inject a political narrative across mainstream America. And you remove these people from government. You have to go in there. And the same thing we're talking about the voting, it's the same thing here. You got to cleanse the scrolls. Government service is a service. We're not making you do it. And if you break the rules and regulations, you're out. So that's a big part of it, right? Then you bring in the new bench, the new team. Then you're going to have to keep fighting the media. And I think we're slowly, over the years, have started to win that fight. Because the more and more, it's the one thing I learned when I started Russiagate, my name was outed for the first time, that the media is attacking you, the more you're over the target.
Who is at the head of it?
All right, so listen up. State Farm was trying to charge...
What are y'all thoughts? What are y'all thoughts? What are y'all thoughts? Ms. Parker says, he said they keep telling lies. Exactly. And that's something that we know, Ms. Parker.
Who is at the head of it?
I don't think there's one person or one group. I think it's people who know they're going to benefit from each other if they sign up for the program, let's call it, right? And so, again, not a Republican or Democrat thing. In the glossary of this book, in alphabetical order, I think there's like 65 people I name by title and name, just to show people how expansive the deep state is. And so there is no like one chain of command they report to. Instead, what I believe they do is they bring in people that they can control. Oh, the Obamas still have heavy sway in that entire operation. And so do people that have been around for 10, 20, 30 years in Washington.
I mean, I think it's already out there for them. I mean, how corrupt it is. I mean, that's why I think that's why podcasts are doing so well right now. And I mean, somebody just came in here in media and said that CNN's viewership is only about 50,000 at any particular point in time during the day. That's pretty bad. That's pretty bad.
It's atrocious. And I'll give you an example from sort of the other end of the spectrum. When Tucker was on Fox, and this is not an attack on the reporting, it's just the It's just the way the pendulum has swung away from mainstream media in general. When Tucker was on Fox and he was at the peak of his show's viewership, he was still 1/3 less than Bill O'Reilly when Bill O'Reilly was on Fox in terms of viewership.
Wow.
So it had already started, and it's, again, not because of the reporting. I think it's because other people started to say, I don't want to watch mainstream media anymore, anywhere. And the shows, the podcasts, the radios, the series started becoming more and more and more and more popular.
No matter where you're watching Sean Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this, please
I'll take a few comments and then we're going to get out of here. Seth says, yes, Ms. Parker, but we must teach the young the truth. Seth says, the weft is the evilness. Ms. Parker says, just a little bit. If they investigated him for 5 years, then we know the ones they're still being watched. I mean, like I said, and I'll say it again, it's time for a change. Do I agree with everything when it comes to Donald Trump? No. If you've been around me long enough, you know that I don't agree with everything when it comes to Donald Trump. However, the things that I do agree with when it comes to Trump, I'm going to let you know, just as well as the things that I disagree with. Ms. Parker says, I think Kash is going to turn some stuff around, and I'm here for it. I mean, it is what it is, y'all. Salute. I'll see everybody on the main channel at 9:30. The main channel is Shank Rock at 9:30. What is Kash Patel going to do to help the Shanquilla Robinson case? Salute everybody. I'll see y'all at 9:30 on the main channel, Shank Rock.